everybody? Wienerfight.com back here at you again. Hey, if there's any little kids, go ahead and send them out of here. First things first, so the other day I was informed that somebody thought that I had a booger on my lip right here. Just so everybody knows, no, it just so happens that I have a gray hair right here that just doesn't want to go away. Every time I pick the damn thing, it comes right back, so I don't know. But anyway, it's not a booger, it's just a gray hair that I've got here in my mustache. So today's topic is going to be about oil. And let me kind of get the story going here. So the other day I was talking to one of my buddies about Iraq. And he came off, he's like, man, you know, we're just, all these wars are just about oil and all this and blah, blah, blah. And it irritates me when people say that. It really, really irritates me when people say that because they obviously don't know a single thing about oil, how it's produced, where it comes from, or more importantly, how we have more oil in America than damn near anybody else in the world. Okay, literally, the Anwar province up in Alaska has probably got more oil than any other country in the world. But here's the thing, and this very well may be a short video. Let's hope, right? The thing about oil is that people don't understand the difference between carbon-based oil compared to fossil fuels. Everybody thinks that that all this oil that we get, that we turn into fuel, whether it's gasoline or diesel, everybody thinks that this is coming from fossil fuels, right? They don't understand that fossil fuel is a limited supply, right? That's the stuff that we're fracking for. That's the stuff that you typically hear people talking about on the radio. And really, it's unfortunate that people don't know the difference between fossil fuels and carbon fuels. So I would really like to explain today what the difference is and how we have been so misled for so long. So we always hear about the oil wars, and we always hear about how we need OPEC and all these other foreign oil suppliers. And don't get me wrong, there is no doubt that there's definitely some shenanigans going on between, our government and OPEC and, the Saudis and all this kind of shit. Don't get me wrong. But the fact that people think that we need that is absolutely ludicrous. The next fact is that we're not going to run out. And I'll explain this. We may very well run out of fossil fuels because, like I said, those are actually those pods, and I'll kind of give everybody a background on this too. I really didn't even understand this myself. I have a cousin who works in the oil industry, and many years ago he explained this to me, and it actually blew my mind because I've never heard anybody else explain this to me like this. But he works on a bunch of oil pods, all the way ranging from like North Dakota all the way down into Texas. He works for a company, and he was explaining to me how, and he didn't even know the science behind it, but he was explaining to me like how they'll have some rig setups, and they'll pump all the oil, and then it'll run out, right? It'll run out. They'll pump it for a couple of years, and then it'll run out. So they'll go set up another rig, 100 miles down the road, and then they'll pump that for a couple of years. And then he was explaining to me how, they'll go back up to other rigs that they set up before, and all of a sudden there's oil in them again. So I started looking into it, and I started looking into the actual science. And here's the thing. The scientists that talk about this, it's very similar to the scientists who talk about global warming or the scientists that are talking about coronavirus or anything. So you've got one group of scientists that try to say that global warming is man-made and it's absolutely happening, or coronavirus is the most dangerous thing in the world. You've also got those scientists that are sitting out there saying that oil is a scarce resource and that it's going to run out and that we've only got 100 years left and all this kind of shit. Okay, most of those guys are actually paid for by the electric energy group, right? Same thing as global warming. It's all these environmentalists and it's all these, Greenpeace and these fucking, tree hugger people that are paying these scientists to come up with these conclusions. But here's the real truth. The real truth is that carbon-based oil, which is where we get petroleum from, carbon-based fuel sources, those oil pods that are around the world, whether you're talking Anwar, whether you're talking Texas, whether you're talking, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and all those places like that, those oil pods are continuously refilling. Okay, yeah, we may be able to pump, to where we start to drain them, but they fill back up, and here's why. Most people don't know this. You remember when you were a little kid and you heard about the dinosaurs and how there was like these massive, like oil lakes, right? Like the whole earth was on fire because there was like oil pits and all this kind of stuff. Okay, that's because the earth is a lot like an engine. Okay, so imagine an internal combustion engine, right? A gasoline engine. So in the middle of that engine, you've got a camshaft, right? And that's kind of what's always turning and generating friction. And then it's got pistons going up. And those pistons is what's pushing up that carbon, right? It pushes it out the exhaust ports. And those exhaust ports are literally constantly shooting out carbon dioxide, right? Well, that's the exact same thing that the earth is doing. Okay, obviously there's not literal pistons and all that kind of shit, but the Earth's core is constantly generating so much heat and friction that it's pushing out carbon. And just like on an engine, you've literally got ports where this carbon is being pushed out of the Earth's surface. Other forms of this carbon are being pushed out through volcanoes. There's different sources of release, of pressure release from this internal combustion, right? And literally, our Earth is a lot like a regular gasoline motor. So what I'm saying here is that these pods, these oil pods, or these places that have these massive amounts of oil, if we didn't extract that, eventually that oil would literally come out of the ground. Okay? Literally. And it would probably catch on fire and it would probably kill the whole damn earth and all that kind of shit. But here's the point. The point is that as we take that stuff out, the earth is going to regenerate it and put it back up in there. We are actually doing the earth a favor by taking that out of the ground so that it doesn't overfill and start coming out. We are actually doing the earth a favor. And any scientist, I can't remember, I can't even quote any of this stuff to tell you where I found this out at. But it actually takes a lot of digging to find this stuff out and to figure out that if we don't extract this oil, it is carbon. Think of the word. It is carbon-based. It is not fossil fuels. Fossil fuels is like your propanes and your liquid gases. That's what fossil fuels are. Those are definitely a limited resource. They're in pockets, just like the other oil. That's from like plants and animals dying, and over time they deteriorate and they create a gas. Okay, that's what they talk about when they're talking about fossil fuels. Okay, that's what fossil fuels are. Fossil fuels like your propane, stuff like that. That's the stuff that when we get in there and, we frack it out and stuff like that, that's the stuff that doesn't come back. Okay, the only way to get that back is to have more stuff die and be trapped up in those pockets like that. So that's really, that's a limited source. But petroleum, right, where we get our gasoline and our diesel and stuff like that, petroleum is an unlimited resource. I mean, seriously, it is called carbon. It is a carbon base. So think about this. The reason it's called carbon is because the center of the earth is creating it just like a motor, and it's pushing it out. It is a carbon-based substance. And so if that is not extracted and if it's not used up, right? I mean, basically we turn it and we convert it into carbon dioxide, right? That's a deadly gas, but it goes up into the atmosphere kind of like carbon monoxide. And when it comes, when our vegetation actually breathes that back in and converts it to oxygen. Okay, carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide both have the same effect. It's not killing the earth. It's not thinning out our ozone layer. Okay, regardless of what. Because here's the thing: if that carbon deposits, otherwise known as oil, if it comes out of the Earth's surface, it's going to catch on fire anyway. And then the whole earth is going to be on fire, and it's going to kill everything. So we are literally actually doing the earth a favor by extracting this carbon before it gets to the earth's surface. We are actually doing the earth a favor. The thing about this is, and here again, we can claim whatever you want to claim about Iraq and Afghanistan and all this and that. Okay, I argue that the reason that we went to Iraq was so that we would have, it's kind of like playing Battleship, right? We went to Afghanistan, we went to Iraq, we had bases in Turkey. I personally would claim that the reason we went to Iraq was so that we had a strategic placement around Iran. Right? That's why I personally think that we went to Iraq. I mean, it had nothing to do with us being afraid of Iraq or anything like that. We knew that we could have beat Iraq in a week if we would have wanted to. Same thing with Afghanistan. We could have bombed those fucking stupid cave dwellers back into the Stone Age if we wanted to. Strategically, though, we wanted to be around Iran, and I also believe that we wanted to be close to Pakistan and India. Because believe it or not, those are dangerous-ass countries. But it had nothing to do with oil. Literally, we have enough oil in Alaska and Texas to last America the next 1,000 years. And that's before that's before the oil dries up and has to replenish itself. But here's the point, though, and here again, I don't know why these scientists aren't coming out and saying the truth, and I don't know where to tell you to go to find this information out. It just amazes me that more people aren't talking about this and that more people don't understand. They don't teach this shit in school, right? They don't teach that oil is literally continuously reproducing itself. It is a carbon. So it is the Earth's core is continuously creating carbon. They teach about earthquakes and volcanoes and all that shit, right? But they don't teach kids about the reason why oil exists. I mean, think about it logically. Why does oil exist? What is the purpose of carbon-based petroleum? If you understand mechanics and if you understand, gasoline engines or even diesel engines, it's pretty much the same thing. The reason that it exists is because the earth is constantly creating it. It's not like it's just a limited source of carbon. Carbon is constant. It's constantly being replaced. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to reproduce itself as fast as we can use it. But what I'm saying is that we are actually doing the earth a favor, because if we continue to allow that carbon base to build up and build up and build up, it's going to eventually break the surface of the earth. And then, kind of like all those stories of the dinosaurs, how there was oil pits all over the earth, we would have that, and the whole earth would be on fire. one of the things about oil is that it burns, right? And when it burns, it's not really combustible, or it's not really, it doesn't explode like gasoline does, right? It has to be refined into gasoline or diesel even, right? That's a refining process of taking petroleum and refining it to that point. But like diesel fuel, right? Diesel fuel does not, it doesn't explode. You can light it on fire and it'll burn for a day, but it doesn't, like gasoline. When you light it on fire, it just boom, right? But diesel doesn't do that, and oil definitely doesn't do that. Oil actually has to be pretty hot for it to catch on fire, but when it catches on fire, there's almost nothing that can put it out. I mean, nowadays they have foams and stuff like that you can use to put oil out. But imagine if you had an oil, like an oil, like a lake of oil. Imagine if you had, a lake like, I don't know, I'm in Georgia, so Lake Lanier, right? Imagine if you had Lake Lanier that was just nothing but oil. There would be no way to put that out. There would be no way to put that out. And this is how Mother Nature is designed to literally, I remember as a little kid, I mean, the best example I can give is when Mount St. Helens blew up in Washington State, because I grew up in Washington State and Montana and stuff. And so the best example I can give is Mount Rainier was just absolutely gorgeous, but it was overgrown. And, Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier is probably going to blow next, but Mount St. Helens, right? Mount St. Helens blew. And when that happened, I mean, it completely destroyed the whole mountain. I mean, it was bare. There was nothing there but ash and, a couple of little, it torched that entire mountain. But soon after, I mean, I'd say we probably went up there maybe 2 years later. And Mount St. Helens, everything had grown back beautifully. There was animals running around. See, that's Mother Nature's way of kind of, killing off the old and starting the new, right? I mean, literally. And carbon is kind of the same concept, right? I mean, it really is just part of this immaculate design that we have as Earth, where it's there for a reason. I mean, it's being generated. Eventually, if it comes out, its purpose is to basically torch the whole Earth. I'm convinced that this is absolutely 100% what killed the dinosaurs, and probably killed other species before them, and killed other species before them, and so on and so forth. I mean, they say the Earth is 8 billion years old or something like that. So I can guarantee that this process has happened many times. I can guarantee that this carbon buildup is built up to the point where we had literal lakes of oil that caught on fire, and of course that caught everything else on fire, and the old ashes turn into new, right? I mean, this is part of the Earth's design. And the thing with it is it's going to happen again. I mean, there's no doubt that it's going to happen again, but we are actually doing the Earth a favor by extracting it, using it, and having it be reabsorbed as oxygen. I mean, we are actually doing the Earth a favor. So anybody who says differently is just absolutely full of shit. And here's what I can say. I don't believe that we went to Iraq because of oil. I really don't. I believe that we went to Iraq for a multitude of reasons, one of which was probably to, we have to have wars so often just to justify having a 2.5 million man active duty military, right? That's kind of what Eisenhower was warning about when he talked about the military industrial complex. But the truth is that, out of anything in the world, I don't think it was about oil. And again, we've got some funny, fucked up relationship with OPEC. I don't understand it. I don't understand why dickheads like Joe Biden, why they would want to bring oil from over there when we've got more than enough oil right here. Because I can guarantee those people know the science behind it. I can guarantee it. I can guarantee that they know damn good and well that those oil pods that are underground, those oil pockets, okay, of carbon-based oil, I can guarantee you that these elite people, these politicians, they know that that shit refills back up over time. They know it. They damn know it. They're being fucking stupid. They're misleading people. They're the ones paying for these scientists to tell everybody that, you know, petroleum is a limited resource and blah, blah, blah. No, the fuck it's not, man. It's a carbon-based fuel. It replenishes itself. It regenerates itself. Think of an internal combustion engine when you think of this. That carbon is constantly being pushed out. Constantly. So with saying all that, you know, I really think that people need to research this more. I really want people to kind of get out there and look and see the lie. I mean, this is just a straight up lie. And every time one of these little tree hugging, you know, punk ass bitches out there starts talking about how we're killing the planet by driving cars, you need to remind them, okay, to make one Tesla battery, is the equivalent of running a semi-truck non-stop 24/7 for 5 straight years. That's how much emissions is emitted to make one Tesla battery. Okay, you can run a semi-truck for 5 straight years, and the emissions that thing is dumping out of its exhaust is less emissions than it takes to make one Tesla battery. That's a fact. Now here's the funny thing. Every Tesla out there takes at least 2 batteries. They've got some that take 4, but the standard Teslas take 2 batteries. Those batteries only last 3 to 5 years, and then you got to replace them. Okay? I mean, seriously. This is how stupid and this is how misled the American people have become. Is that they don't even know the science behind clean energy. Okay? Seriously. So, I want people to start researching this. I want people to start talking about it. I want people, the next time you hear some little tree hugger, you know, driving his little moped around town, his little electric scooter, all right, you need to let these people know that they are actually causing more harm to the environment than good. We need to be extracting this oil, because if we don't, it will eventually build up and it will eventually overflow, just like it's done many times before. And when that happens, it will catch on fire and the entire earth will burn down to nothing. So, I don't know what else I can say about that, but what I do know is that and I mean this wholeheartedly, man, we've got to get our heads out of our asses. You know, it's kind of funny. The countries out there that do understand this are countries like Russia. They understand full damn good and well that oil is never going away. Okay, that we might as well use this natural resource that Mother Nature has given us because it's there for the taking. And if we don't use it, that is what is literally going to cause the global warming type of. You want to talk about global warming? If the whole Earth is on fire, you can't get much more global warming than that, now can you? Anyway, as always, check out. Don't forget to look at people on YouTube like Terrence Pops. My dude Randall Actual, keep watching his podcast. Let's get his numbers built up. And, just keep the big guys in mind that are actually doing a lot of good out there. Most people don't know this, but companies like Grunt Style and Black Rifle Coffee Company, and they do an enormous amount of charity, especially for like veterans organizations and stuff like that. But they really... I'm not just telling you to buy their products because I'm not affiliated with them at all. But the bigger the company you have, the more generosity you can show. And those two companies in particular, show an enormous amount of generosity. Okay, so I want people to keep that in mind, man. Those owners of those companies are good people. And the more that you support them, the better, the more better things that they can do. So I will not be making videos every day, probably for a while. I mean, I'll probably go ahead and do the whole Christmas and New Year's thing. I mean, I'll try to get as many videos as I can out there. But I would like to wish everybody a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year's. Try to be safe out there, guys. Don't get into any wrecks. Depending on where you live in the country, whether you're driving in snow, just be really safe. Just be really careful. Always, just be safe. Just don't do anything stupid. If you have anything that you'd like me to talk about on here, don't be afraid to shout out. And I did a whole kind of like my last like 10 episodes were kind of about how fucked up some of these women were and shit like this. I am going to be throwing some other videos out there like today's topic, just because there's some really interesting things to talk about. So again, if you got something that you'd like to talk about, let me know. I come at you with facts. I expect you to do the same with me. Till next time, take care, and we'll see you at wienerfight.com.